The Holy Spirit said, set apart for me Barnabas and Saul for the work to which I have called them. Acts 13 and verse 2b. Hearing the voice of God. We are still tracking the voice of God as much as we can, because we must know, why was God speaking to the people of the Bible, and today we are being taunted by the heathens and the paganists that the Bible is a European history book that was written to come and manipulate us and take us from our ancestral gods, and they gave us their gods. If you look at it, Jesus was not a European. He was from Middle East. And from the Middle East we have Muhammad. Is Muhammad a story? Is a reality. So Jesus Christ is not a story, it's a reality. Why was he speaking to them? But today the voice of God is becoming rare and rare and rare. The church is left with philosophy. The church is left with the history. The church is left with the Greek definitions. The church has been left with the psychological, inspirational and motivational speaking. But the voice of God is not there. Even those who are saying, Rinai, Asema Bona Majesty, that says the Lord Almighty. They are mostly depending on tongue interpretations. But if you look at the old covenant people, you never hear anywhere they were speaking in tongues and they needed an interpreter. God would speak to them right into their ears with language they could understand. Notice here, even in the New Testament, especially the book of Acts, we don't see anywhere the tongues are being interpreted, because still the voice of God was audible and classified. It is after that, I don't know, the hunger for the voice of God died, or it is a corruption of spiritual applications crept in, I don't know. But this is the keyword. Here we see the Holy Spirit speaking, and he says, set apart. The voice of God always is a consecrating energy. You hear the voice of God, just you hear God speaking to you. From that moment, every human system that owns you loses you, and you stop belonging to that human system again, whether it is your father or your mother. From that moment, what is applied on you is, this is mine. If you have ever heard the voice of God and you are still pursuing human approval, you are in error. And one thing is, you might never live to fulfill the intentions of the voice you had, because you now walk with the voice but not with the energy of the voice. When you still go back to the humanistic systems, set apart for me Barnabas and Saul. The voice of the deity, the voice of the divinity always sets you apart. It consecrates you. It separates you from human system. No matter how that human system owns you, through love and intimacy, friendship, connections, the moment you hear from God, I'm telling you, the people you are calling your friends, you might not even go away from them but they themselves will withdraw from you, because there is an energy in your atmosphere that is not hosting them as humans, and they are not adapting to it, so they prefer to go. That is why you notice you can pursue some people who left you and never bring them back, because what pushed them out was stronger than to, he says, for the work to which I have called them. So the voice of God calls. The voice of God calls. The moment you hear God speaking, that is a calling by itself. What you need to decode is the type of the calling. The calling of Paul or Saul was to the Gentiles. What if he went to the Jews? We could be having the book of Romans all the way to the book of Hebrews, because Jews already had the Torah, so they never needed a new book. But the Gentiles needed their own book. So the voice of the divinity defines your calling. Then 3 says, for the work to which the voice of God specifies the purpose or the divine assignment. When you hear the voice of God, you don't have the overlap of activities trying to do this and that to see which one is going to work out or which one God will support. When you hear the voice of God, it gives clarity to the assignment, because the voice of God carries specifications of the assignment. So you work for God, not from a point of it is either here or there, because other servants of God are doing that and are doing that. No, you are, even if whatever you are doing is totally different from everyone else, even if everyone else is saying yours is not correct, as long as you heard the voice of God, the voice of God gives work specificity and clarifications. How did they position themselves into hearing the voice of God? Number 1 is fellowship. Fellowship. That's why Paul said we should continue having fellowship, because he says there were teachers and the prophets, Barnabas, Simeon called Niger, Lucius of Cyrene, Manaen, who had been brought up with Herod the Tetrarch, Saul and Barnabas. So the key number 1 is fellowship. Find a team of like-minded in pursuit of spiritual growth. Number 2 is worshiping the Lord. This worshiping the Lord is in spirit and in truth. The John 4 concept. They were worshiping the Lord. Number 3 is fasting. They were also in fasting. So worshiping is not fasting. So they were worshiping, and they were doing it in spirit and truth. Remember, it is also defined in Romans 12 verse 1, offering their bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God, because that is the act of spiritual worship. Then number 4, it is recorded in verse 3. So after they had fasted and prayed, they placed their hands on them and sent them off. So this worshiping must be in the form of prayer, and this prayer is in spirit and truth. So that is in Romans 8 verse 26 to 27. Praying in the spirit is what we call a worshiping in the spirit and the truth, because when you are praying in the spirit, you utter mysteries and you speak to God, and no one understands you apart from God only. So those